A group fighting the redevelopment of Ontario Place says the province has paused construction pending a decision from the Ontario Superior Court.
So let's get the latest now. CB24's Courtney Heel standing by live outside Ontario Place this morning with more on this. And we've heard so much back and forth, so much opposition, Courtney, and it seems like the battle will continue.
Oh, it certainly looks like that, guys. And we know a lot of people have shared concerns about the province's plan for development here at Ontario Place. Behind me, we know there are very big plans, multi-million-dollar plans by the Ford government to go forward with a spa and a water park. But as I say, some challenging that decision. And we also know going forward, the work behind me here will be on hold at least for a week until July the 19th. So to talk about why, let's bring in Eric Gillespie. He is a lawyer with the Ontario Place Protectors. Good morning, Eric. Let's start by talking about this court challenge, what we expect to see here, and why this group that you're representing is so passionate about seeing the work come to a halt behind me here.
Yeah, good morning, Courtney. And Ontario Place Protectors was formed specifically to address this issue. And what they are raising is a constitutional challenge. That might sound a little complicated, but it isn't, because there's basically two simple issues. Under our system, judges are given certain powers. And unfortunately, there's a strong view that a lot of those powers have been eroded or taken away by some of the legislation to bring in this water park. And that's simply not constitutional in many people's minds. As well, the land that we're all looking at here isn't land that belongs to the current government. It belongs to the people of Ontario. And that creates essentially a trust. And unfortunately, many people believe that trust has been breached by some of the steps that have been taken. So people are going to court to ask a court to help with that.
So it's our understanding that the work on pause, at least until this one-day hearing that's set to take place next week. How confident are you and those as part of your group feeling going forward in this, that you might be successful in stopping the work from going forward?
Well, I think it was a big step forward that we were able to work with the Ontario government and get consent to stop the work. So when we're in court, obviously it will be up to the court to decide what's going to happen here. But at the same time, what our client will simply be asking is that the current status quo, which now is work stopped, be continued until some of these legal issues get resolved.
And the work, as we understand it, it started last month, late June. Any idea what kind of impact that could have in going forward with this decision? Do you have concerns over what has already happened behind me here in terms of that development?
There definitely has been some work done, but generally speaking, most of the site seems to have been preserved. The buildings, the primary buildings are intact, and a lot of the natural heritage features are still there, the trees and those types of things that people have come to know and love at that site. So thankfully, most of that, as we can see, has generally been preserved, and we're hoping that'll continue to be the case.
Is Ontario Place Protectors coming forward with another option here if you are successful in going forward with this court challenge and the development doesn't go forward behind me, or another option, another location that the government could consider for developing this, what they argue would be a really popular tourist attraction?
Fundamentally, I think what lots of people have been calling for a long time is for the government to just comply with the current rules. Those rules have been developed over several decades about how we treat our environment, about how we treat our cultural and heritage resources, our crown jewels. And unfortunately, the government has said we're not going to use those rules. If those rules were applied, I think many people believe the outcome here would be dramatically different. And that's all that people are asking for. Just comply with the current rules.
And finally, sir, what more can you tell us about the organizations and the people who are involved in Ontario Place Protectors and why they're sharing these concerns with plans for this site here?
Ontario Place Protectors, I think, simply expresses a view that's very widely held by Ontarians basically everywhere. And that is a deep-rooted concern about the future of one of the most iconic pieces of land that we have in our province. Ontario Place Protectors is currently being supported by 14 different organizations and individuals through affidavit or written sworn evidence that's been in front of the court. And those organizations come from the environmental community, they come from the heritage and the cultural and the architectural community. And I think they just express the views of so many people about how important this site is.
Eric Gillespie is a lawyer with Ontario Place Protectors joining us live this morning. Sir, thank you for your time and for explaining the next steps in this court challenge to us and our viewers.
Thank you, Courtney.
So Nick, Jennifer, we wait until next week, that is July the 19th, to see what happens with this one-day hearing and the arguments that will be put forward, both by this group along with, of course, the provincial government. They'll have a chance to respond. We know yesterday there was an opportunity for the Infrastructure Minister, Kinga Surma, to weigh in. She was asked about this court challenge and plans to pause the work behind me here. They're really not saying anything at this point, saying that because it is before the courts, there's not much they can say, only saying they are looking forward to July the 19th. So it appears as though that will be a big day and perhaps give us some answers on what this area behind me here could look like going forward. Over to you.
Okay, we'll have to wait until then. CP24's Courtney Heels live for us outside of the Ontario Place. Thank you.